What's going on, everybody? It's your boys, Mr. Cassius, and I'm back again with another hot topic for another good reaction video, all for you, the people. You know what I'm saying? So I'm here today. We're gonna get things going live. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get things going right with my man, Mr. Ballen here. You know what I'm saying? It's the situation is, these two cops. You know what I'm saying? They basically quit their jobs after seeing this demon. You know what I mean? So stay tuned because we're gonna do this proper. We're gonna do this right like we always do, and it ain't nothing without being scared. Stay tuned. Here we go. Ah, yes, there it is. I love that intro. So check it out. Here we go. Again, we're gonna bust the move. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get y'all scared. We're gonna get y'all talking about need to see Jesus. You need to go to church. You need to pray. For the squeamish people, I suggest you don't watch this video because my man, Mr. Ballen, he does his thing and he scares the hell out of everybody. You know what I'm saying? So please, if you're scared, just turn on the lights, go to bed, hug your husband with the lights on, and don't even watch the video. But for those that are real gully and gangster like that, y'all stay here, watch the video, and let me know what you think in the comments below. But in the meantime, I want you to comment, share, subscribe, like, do all that good stuff. Because we're about to get things going. So without no further ado, let's bring up my man, Mr. Ballen. You know what I'm saying? And then from there, after we bring my man up, we're just going to get things going. Check it out. Here we go. Mr. Ballen himself is going to bring you some good stuff. So we get this thing clicking over. We're good to go. All right. Here we go. My man, check it out.
For a ghost story to be scary, it needs to be believable. For it to be believable, you need to have credible witnesses that independently can corroborate each other's stories. And in today's ghost story, we have 3 police officers that do just that. But before we get into that story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you come to the right place, because that's all I do, and I upload 3, 4, even 5 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, then please put the like button's feet into cement and then throw it into the ocean. Also subscribe to this channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of my weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's story. In 2006, Dave Murphy had just become a police officer in Salt Lake City, Utah. His first role was as a protective service officer, which meant he'd be in charge of physical security at a number of the county facilities. Dave's first facility was the Capital City Theater, which is a landmark inside of Salt Lake City. It's been around since the early 1900s. It's this beautiful, grand theater. So in early August, Dave reports to the Capital City Theater for his first day on the job, and he meets his partner, an officer by the name of Morgan Matthews. He gets there on this first day, and right away, Dave would say that Morgan was just strictly business. The first place that Morgan takes Dave is the control room, which sits on the first floor of the theater. The theater had 3 floors, and then it also had a basement as well. So the control room was on that first floor. Inside of the control room were all of these security monitors, because there was all these cameras set up inside of the theater. The cameras weren't great though. You pretty much could only tell what was in frame if there was a light on, and most of the time at night especially, lights were off. Once they were done looking at the control room, Morgan says to Dave, now we're going to go do our rounds. This is something we do every time you get to the theater. You do a security round and make sure everything's locked, all the lights are off. Before you come back to the control room, you'll do that at the beginning of your shift and at the end of your shift. Morgan brings Dave downstairs, and it's the first time Dave is seeing the basement, and he's shocked by how big it is. It is this massive hallway that stretches way down. In the middle of the hall is a piano that's just sitting out in the middle, and the lighting's not good down there. This is a very old theater. Everything in the building was pretty old. And Dave remembers thinking that he was immediately creeped out by this scene, this long hallway with all these doors and this piano right in the middle of the hallway. And he's thinking to himself, I don't want to spend much time down here. This is so creepy. But they go down the hall, they check all the doors, they make their way up to the main floor, the second floor, the third floor, everything gets checked. And so after they do this security round, Dave and Morgan.
Hold up. See, that's one thing I can't do, man. I can't be an unarmed security guard in some damn mental hospital or some asylum or some this big building. I can't do it. I can't do it. There's no way. No. I can't be no security guard without no, gun or something on me, because I can't be having something jumping out, scaring the hell up out of me, and I'm unarmed. What am I going to do? Shine the hell out of you? You know what I'm saying? No, I can't do it. Can't do it. Won't do it. Can't pay me enough to do it. Adios. See you later. Not today.
We're going to go back to the control room, and Dave is anticipating getting to know Morgan a little bit. This is their first night. They're going to be working together a lot. And Dave would say that Morgan just seemed really cold and just did not want to talk to Dave very much. And as soon as their shift was almost over, Morgan was very eager to just knock out the security rounds and just get out of that building. At the end of that night, Dave remembers thinking that there's just something off about Morgan's behavior. It seemed like Morgan really didn't like being in the theater. It would turn out that he was onto something, because Morgan didn't like being in that building. But it would take him a while to share with Dave why. Over the next couple of days, Morgan and Dave would do their security rounds together, because Dave's in training, Morgan's teaching him. But on August 9th, which was 2 days after Dave's first day on the job, Morgan was confident that Dave knew how to secure the whole building. And so at the end of the night, he tells Dave, why don't you do the security rounds yourself? Dave feels very confident that he knows how to do it. He goes down into the basement, makes sure all the doors are shut and locked, that the lights are off, finishes the basement, goes up to the first floor where the control room is, and checks all the rooms on that floor. He goes into the main auditorium space. He's checking all the different nooks and crannies to make sure there's nobody hiding in there. He goes up to the second floor. He checks all the different rooms up there and the balcony, makes his way up to the third floor where there's all the offices of staff that work at the theater. At the end of the search, the last room he would check was the rehearsal room. And it was the only room where there was no door to it. So you poke your head in, kind of look around, make sure no one was in there, and then you would leave, and that's the end of your check. So Dave gets to the rehearsal room, he flips the light on, and he looks inside, doesn't see anybody, is satisfied that no one's in there, turns the light off, and as he's about to turn back into the hallway, he hears a door slam with tremendous force right across the hallway from where he was, and it was the bathroom door. And his first reaction is someone just ran out of the bathroom. Someone who had snuck into the building must have run out of the bathroom, and they're making a break for it to get out of the theater.
No, see, nope, sorry. I'm sorry. Can't do it. I quit. I can't be in a place. No. I mean, you know what? In all honesty, even a gun ain't gonna stop a ghost. You know what I'm saying? So you can't pay me enough. You're gonna pay me enough to do it. No. I mean, I do paranormal investigations, but I don't do that by myself. Hell to the no. Hell to the no. You couldn't stop me. No. You couldn't stop me from running out that damn place. Hell no. Sorry.
Here before I catch them. And so he instinctively picks up his radio and he calls to Morgan and says, someone's on the third floor. But when Morgan looks at the camera, he doesn't see anybody. At this point, Dave's drawn his weapon. He's looking down the hall. He doesn't see anybody. And as he's waiting for Morgan to come upstairs to back him up so they can go look for this person that's just ran down the hall, he realizes two things. One, just because he heard the door slam doesn't mean they left and slammed it. They could be in the bathroom. And so he's thinking to himself, someone could be in the bathroom right now. Maybe that's why we didn't see him on the camera. And then the second thing he thought of is that door, the bathroom door, can't slam. It's got this huge hydraulic hinge to it. It can't slam.
Nope.
So his gun is drawn and he's aiming it at the bathroom door right as Morgan comes up on his right. Morgan draws his pistol. He's got it on the door as well. And they make entry into the bathroom. They clear all the different spaces in the bathroom and no one's in there. And there's no way to get out of there. Morgan and Dave are like, okay, well, they must not have come in here. They must have run out of the bathroom. They're somewhere in the theater. And so they decide they're going to search the entire building and find this person that clearly was just in the bathroom, and that's how they slammed the door. We're not going to worry about how they slammed the door with the hydraulic hinge. We just know it was slammed somehow. So they leave the bathroom, guns still drawn, and they start making their way down the hall. They're checking all the doors. Everything is locked. When they start making their way downstairs to the second floor, Dave recognizes through the door, because there's a door leading onto the second floor, he can see that the lights are on, and he had turned them off. And so as they're walking down the stairs, he says to Morgan, hey, did you turn the lights on the second floor? And Morgan's like, no. And so they think that whoever was here, whoever was in the bathroom is on the second floor. They must have turned the lights on. They go into the second floor, and not only are the lights on, but all the doors on the second floor had been opened. They search the entire second floor. They search every single room. No one's on the second floor. They turn off the lights, they shut all the doors, everything's locked. When they went down to the first floor, everything was the way it should have been, locked, lights off, nothing down there. And they go down to the basement, and even though it was creepy being down there because they've now searched the whole building and they're anticipating coming in contact with whoever is here, assuming they haven't left the building yet, and there's no one down there. They decided to review the footage from the third floor to see if they could pick up someone running in the hall around the time that door slammed. But the camera was not trained on the bathroom door. So you just have this view down the hall. You can't see the bathroom specifically, not to mention the hallway is dark and the cameras are terrible without light. And so all they're able to see is the light go on in the rehearsal room while Dave is doing his last check in there. The lights turn off because Dave's about to turn around. And then after that,
when I first started a business, I was literally sleeping on an air mattress because I didn't have enough cash flow to keep the business going. Right now, I'm traveling the world, currently in the Maldives, because I have
found about that, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get right back to the.
You just hear this massive slam of this door, but you can't see what happened. So they don't know what to make of it. They're both very much on edge that someone might still be in the building. And so they do another sweep of the building. No one's there. And so they decide to just chalk it up and say, we were hearing things and seeing things. I'm sure it's fine. Let's just get out of here. And they leave. A couple of days later, on August 11th, Morgan is working alone. Dave wasn't coming in that day, so Morgan's alone in the theater doing a shift. And at some point in the night, as he's sitting in the control room, he thinks he hears whispering in the hall right behind him. And so after the experience he had with Dave a couple nights ago, he's on edge. So he draws his pistol right away. And so he goes out into the hallway, and immediately when he steps into the hall, the whispering seems to go farther and farther away from him down the hall. So he gets out there, he's looking around, he can't see anything. He makes his way down the hallway towards the stairs that go down into the basement, or if he wanted to go up the second floor. And when he gets to the top of the stairwell, he's gun drawn, looking down, looking up. He hears what sounds like coughing coming from the basement. And at this point, Morgan said,
oh, okay. So that you got guns. All right, that's cool. That's cool. But you still can't shoot no damn ghost stuff.
That he was actually pretty scared. I mean, imagine being alone in this theater. Just a couple of days earlier, you've had this weird experience with slamming doors and doors being opened and lights going on that somebody else, another police officer, witnessed with you. You're alone in this theater and you're hearing coughing coming from the basement after hearing voices behind you. That's pretty terrifying. So he very slowly starts going down the stairwell. He's getting ready to clear the corner, and just as he does, the coughing stops. He turns the lights on and he looks down the hall, and there's nothing there. He starts making his way down the hall. He's checking every door, making sure it's locked, making sure that everything is secure. And he gets all the way down the hall. And as he's almost done checking the basement, he smells smoke, and it's coming from a door right next to him. And so he unlocks that door and he goes in, and there's no fire, but all he can smell is smoke. So he turns the light on. He's looking around. There's no fire. He's convinced that somewhere down in the basement there's a fire. He goes to every single room and he keeps checking, and there's nothing. And then at some point, the smoke smell dissipates. He checks every space in the theater to look for a fire, and there's no fire. He's wondering if he should call the fire department, but he's thinking, what would I tell them? There's no fire. And so he ultimately, after checking 3-4 times and being very confident there wasn't a fire, he just says, okay,
grab my headset.
No fire.
Yeah, I'm just going to grab my headphones.
Smelling things. A few weeks later, on September 4th, Dave has just arrived at the theater. He's there a little bit early. Their shift started at 5 p.m. He was there at about 4:30. And when he walked into the building, he sees that there are 3 staff members sitting at the front desk talking to each other. And as he walks past, one of them is talking about ghosts inside of the theater. And it immediately piques his interest. And so he walked over to the guy talking about ghosts, and he introduced himself. And it turned out that this guy was a man named Blair Fuller, who was a senior accountant at the theater. And so Dave asked Blair, what are you talking about with ghosts in the theater? Because I provide physical security here, and I've seen some strange things here. I just love to hear what you have to say about it. So they head up to the 3rd floor where Blair's office was, and they sit down, and Blair says, okay, I got a doozy for you. This happened to me a couple of years ago. I was actually in this office. It was about 9, 10 o'clock at night. I was doing some work, and I heard the elevator kick on. Now, the elevator was right outside of his office, and anytime it was on, the engine was really loud. It was really obvious if the elevator was moving around. And so he's doing his accounting work, and he hears that engine kick on. He doesn't think much of it, but then it clicks that he's the only one in the building. And so he kind of looks out the glass window of his office. He had a closed door office with 2 windows looking out into the foyer where there's this elevator, and he looks out, and you can see that the little lights above the elevator showing what floor it's on have lit up, and it's going up. So the elevator was in the basement, and now it's in the 1st floor, the 2nd floor, 3rd floor. The door's open, and there's no one there. And at this point, Blair says that he wasn't concerned. He figured, okay, maybe there's some maintenance, maybe it's scheduled to do that, who knows? But after a little while, the alarm goes off in the elevator to signify that something is obstructing the door from shutting. And he's looking out the window, and he hears this alarm, this like ringing sound going off, but the door isn't shutting. And he's like, there's nothing obstructing the door. Why isn't it shutting? And so he leaves his office, and he kind of walks over to the elevator, and he walks into the elevator. And he said immediately he felt this massive drop in temperature inside of the elevator. And as he's standing there, he turns around. Now he's looking back towards his office inside of the elevator. The doors start to shut. And for whatever reason, he said, I didn't get off. I just decided I'm going to ride this elevator. I'm going
to ride the elevator. Yep, I'm going to ride the elevator. It's doing some really ghostly stuff. You know what I'm saying? Possible, you know what I'm saying, paranormal activity in the elevator, but I'm just going to stay in it. You know, that's that real crazy stuff y'all do. I don't know why y'all do that, man. Y'all just crazy. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Y'all be doing some crazy stuff. Me, I'll make an exit out that damn elevator and out the damn door. You want to find me, you have to call me to find out where I'm at. I'll be home. I'm telling you, I don't play.
Basement button lights up as if someone had pressed basement, and they start going down. And he's sitting there thinking, what in the world is going on? It was just on an alarm because the door wasn't shutting. And then miraculously, when I go inside of it, it suddenly works again. And it's going to the basement. So he steps out, and Blair says that it took all of his courage to yell out, hey, is anyone down here? And as soon as he did, and he didn't hear a response, he said he didn't want to make any more sound. The elevator sat in the middle of the hall in the basement. It's that huge hall with that piano sitting right in the middle. The lights are off. And he pokes his head down one way. There's nothing down there. He sees the piano barely from the light of the elevator. And he looks down the other way. There's no one there. And at this point, he's just so spooked. He just gets back in the elevator, and he hits floor 3, floor 3, floor 3. And he's hitting like door closed, door closed, door closed. The door closes, and he goes back up to his office. He goes into his office, and he shuts the door, and he sits down, and he's thinking like, what was that? Why did that just happen? I got to find out if they're running maintenance or something. And as he's sitting in his chair thinking about this strange experience, he hears what sounds like banging sounds coming from outside of his office in that foyer near the elevator. He just goes to his door, and he opens it up, and he pokes his head into the foyer, and he looks to the side, and there's this big filing cabinet, and all of the cabinets are out. They've all been pulled out. He certainly didn't do this. And it was as if someone was one by one pushing each of them shut, these big, heavy cabinets. And he's watching as one by one, these things are slamming shut, one by one, until the whole thing is shut. And so he goes over, and he's like trying to disprove what he just saw, that he can open up a drawer and that it will shut on its own.
Hold up. I've seen this before. I didn't know it was the same situation with these security guards, that cabinet door was slamming like that. I seen it on another show, but I seen that before. That was crazy. That right there, yep, guaranteed defecation. Guaranteed. 100% defecation all day. Yep. There would be no way in hell I'd be sitting in there walking up to that thing. No, I would have been like, you know what? You got this. I'm out. Yep. Guaranteed defecation.
But none of them shut on their own. You have to shut it. Something has to shut it for it to shut. And so he packed up for the day and left, and did not work another night shift at the theater. Later that night, Dave would share Blair's story with Morgan. He wasn't really sure how Morgan was going to react, but Morgan actually would open up, and he would say, you know, before you started working here, I always felt like I was being watched when I was here. And then we had that experience, obviously, where the lights are coming on, and you heard that banging from that bathroom door. And then just a few days ago, I heard voices coming from the hall, and I heard someone coughing in the basement, and I smelled smoke, and there was no one there. And so they start going back and forth, exchanging stories of just how uncomfortable this place made them feel. And so they're wondering what they should do about this. And Dave has this idea. He's like, my best friend, I'll invite him to come over here one night, and we'll tell him that we're giving him a tour of the building. And we'll just see what he says. We'll see if he reacts to anything here. Who knows? You know, maybe something strange will happen, and then we'll have another person validate it. Morgan thinks that's a good idea, and so Dave reaches out to his best friend, Greg. Greg would say that he was a little bit surprised to be getting this offer to come take a tour of the theater, but he was interested, and since Dave was asking, he figured he would oblige him, and so Greg agrees to come to the theater and take a tour. So the next day, Dave and Morgan are at the theater, and Greg shows up, and so they start this tour. They go in the main auditorium, they're looking around, and they make their way into the basement. Morgan turns on the light, and Morgan and Dave instantly see a little ways down the hall on the left, one of the doors has been opened. And so Dave and Morgan push Greg out of the way. They draw their pistols, and they're aimed at the open door. And so Greg just stays behind them as Morgan and Dave make their way down to this open door. And when they get right outside the door and they're about to push it open to go inside, the door slams.
Build custom industrial machines in days.
I gotta get that premium selection on YouTube.
Right in front of Greg and Dave and Morgan. And they all are looking at each other like, what's going on? But before they can do anything, the door handle starts rattling really aggressively. After the rattling stops, Dave and Morgan look at each other and they nod their head like, we got to go in there. Greg is scared about being out in the hall alone, and so he just follows them in. And so the three of them go into this room. Dave and Morgan are, pistols drawn. It's a small room. There's no one in there. Light switch on, no one in there. Greg suddenly gasps and he points to the corner and he says, someone's sitting in the corner. And Dave and Morgan immediately train their guns on what's in the corner, but no one's there. And Greg's like, I just saw someone sitting in the corner. It looked like he had a hood on, he had a sweatshirt on, I don't know, but he was there. And so Dave and Morgan, they're freaked out because they brought Greg here on some level to disprove the strangeness. And now the three of them have seen a door slam that shouldn't have been open in the first place. Greg's claiming to have seen a figure sitting in the corner. This scared the crap out of all three of them. They quickly left, locked, shut off the lights, went upstairs. Greg's like, I'm out of here. Greg leaves. And Dave and Morgan are like, now what? So at this point, all the strangeness that was happening in the theater was getting reported, but it was being reported in a way that Dave and Morgan didn't seem like they were referencing something haunted, but rather someone was breaking in. Ultimately, the county installed new cameras inside of the theater. These updated cameras had infrared technology, which allowed them to see better when the lights were off. They were hoping that this would allow them to catch whoever was breaking in practically every time Dave and Morgan are on shift. So on the day that it was installed, September 15th, Morgan is working there alone. And he's sitting in the control room looking at the different cameras, and he's kind of playing around with the different screens and seeing what he...
Hold on a second. Did I just hit? Did he just say what I thought he said? Hold on. I gotta bring that back. Hold on a second. Hold on. I gotta bring it back. Hold on. I gotta hear this. Did he just say what I thought he said?
Seemed like they were referencing something haunted, but rather someone was breaking in. Ultimately, the county installed new...
So he sees a figure standing up there. He sees something on a balcony or whatever. It looks like a human. But he thinks somebody's breaking in. After all this stuff that's been going on, all he can think about is somebody breaking in. Cabinet slamming by itself, doors are slamming by itself, doors opening by itself, all kind of noises. And he sees this apparition or whatever, this figure of a person standing on the balcony, and he thinks somebody's breaking in. I don't know how the hell, man. I don't know how you manage. That would have been the icing on the cake. Hell to the no. That would have been the icing on the cake. I would have been gone so damn fast my shoes would have fell off. Hell no. God.
Cameras inside of the theater. These updated cameras had infrared technology, which allowed them to see better when the lights were off. They were hoping that this would allow them to catch whoever was breaking in practically every time Dave and Morgan are on shift. So on the day that it was installed, September 15th, Morgan is working there alone. And he's sitting in the control room looking at the different cameras, and he's kind of playing around with the different screens and seeing what each of the cameras can do. And at some point, something catches his eye in one of the screens. In the main auditorium, it appeared like someone might be sitting in one of the seats, but the camera was zoomed back enough that he couldn't get a clear picture. And he didn't know what was normal in any of these cameras because this is the first time he's looking at any of these screens. And so he's looking at the camera really closely, and he thinks he sees someone, he can't really tell, that has a hood on or a shroud on that's just sitting in the middle of the theater. And it starts turning its head like this. And he can see clear as day a set of eyes. And before Morgan has a chance to do it, it just starts raising into the ceiling and disappears. Morgan didn't even check to see what it was. He was done. He literally quit that day. That was his last day at the theater. A couple of weeks after Morgan has quit and Dave is working.
It took you that long to figure out that your ass needs to quit? It took you that long to figure out, Morgan, that you need to get your ass up out of there? It took you that damn long to see the spawn of Satan to get your ass up out of there. Hell, man, what's wrong with y'all? Oh, Lord Jesus, Lord.
Alone at the theater, he's in the control room, and all of a sudden he hears a piano playing. And there's only one piano in the entire theater, and it's sitting in the basement. It's his job to protect this place, so he knows he has to go down and check because it could be some hooligan in the building somewhere. So he leaves the control
place to
room, and
protect
as he starts
himself.
walking over to the stairs with his gun drawn, the music is getting louder and louder. The piano is getting louder and louder and louder. He makes his way down the steps, and as he's about to turn the corner, he hears the guard that protects the keys on the piano slam shut, and the piano stops. Then he turns around the corner and he looks, and there's no one down there. He flips on the light. No one's in the hall. He knows he's not going to find anyone down here. It's this entity that's causing all this mayhem inside of the theater. Dave's seen enough. He's done. He's done with this theater, and he goes right back upstairs. He goes in the control room, locks it, stays there till the end of the shift, and then he is out. And the next day, he goes to his sergeant and he says, "You can't ever put me back inside that theater or I will quit." And so sure enough, he was transferred. Over the next 2 months, they didn't have anyone who could do full-time security.
I wouldn't have been that nice. I'd have been like, take your shit. I'm gone. I'm out. Take your shit. I'm gone. Take your shit. Take your shit. I don't want no more doing it. Give me my check. I'm gone. Keep my check. Mail it to me. I'm out.
At the theater. So different random officers would be there for a couple hours, a couple of days a week until November 26th. They found another officer, a veteran police officer named Josh Thomas, who was going to be working at the theater full time. On November 26th, the first night that Josh Thomas was going to be there, he didn't have anyone to turn over with. So he was just alone at the theater. And it just so happens that Dave is in a patrol car near the theater. When at some point in the night, Josh comes over the radio and says, "Hey, I need backup right now. Someone has broken into the theater." Dave knows that it's probably not someone breaking in. He knows what's going on inside that theater. He was the closest to it. And even though he did not want to go, he felt like it was his responsibility to go to that theater and be Josh's backup. And if it was what Dave thought it would be, this entity in the theater, that he would be able to explain to him what he had seen before he ultimately decided never to go back. And when Dave gets to the theater, there's this back door that they would go into, and he sees Josh is standing just outside the theater. And Dave would say that Josh's eyes were, like saucers. He looked terrified. And so Dave has an inkling of what's going on, and he goes over to Josh and he says, "What's going on? Is someone still in there?" He said that he'd been doing security rounds, and he had heard what sounded like voices when he was in the basement, and he didn't think much of it. He checked all the rooms, everything was shut. And when he made his way up to the third floor, he saw that the elevator had kicked on. It was in the basement, and suddenly the light was on, and it was whirring up to the third floor. And when the elevator opened up, there was no one there. And he's standing there looking at it, and he looks inside, there's no one there, and then the alarm goes off. That's when he called in for backup. Dave says, "Look, let's just go search the building, we'll do it together." They clear the whole theater, no one's there. And before Dave leaves, they go into the main auditorium where the stage is, and they're just standing on the stage, chatting with each other. And Dave, his back is to where the audience would be. And Josh is facing Dave, facing towards the seats. Josh just suddenly stopped. Mid-sentence, he's just frozen and looking just beyond Dave's shoulder. And Dave goes, "What?" And Josh goes, "There's something behind you." Dave slowly turns around, and as soon as he does, he can tell immediately what Josh is looking at. Standing in the very back of the theater away from them is a man standing in the corner with his hands by its sides. Its back is to them, and it's looking down with a hood over its head. Dave turns his whole body around to look at this thing right as this thing turns around real quick and looks directly at them. It has these deep, dark, sunken eyes, and its face looks like it had been very badly burned, like it was black and charred. And it's looking at them before it just turns and runs out the back of the theater. Josh believed that that was an intruder. Dave was fairly certain that that was just another example.
I would not go chasing it.
Haunts the theater, but they would search the building and they could never find that cloaked figure again. And that was when Dave sat Josh down in the control room and he filled him in on why Morgan had quit and why he ultimately had quit.
And why Cassius has quit.
So Josh is
I'm sorry,
like,
great.
I'm glad I work here now.
But
this was the last time that Dave would go to the theater. But Dave would do some additional digging on the history of the theater. It would turn out that in the 40s, there was this horrible fire, and a man had been trapped in the basement when the fire had erupted, and he had died inside of the theater. And so Dave would share this information with Morgan and with Josh, and the three of them all believed that what they were witnessing was the ghost of that man who died in that fire. So I'd love to get your reaction to this. Was this a ghost or was this something else? I will get back to all of the early commenters. So get your comments in there. Give me your theories, and I'll get back to all of the early commenters. If you enjoyed this story and you haven't already done this, please place the like button's feet in cement and then throw them into the ocean. Also, subscribe to this channel and turn on...
Let me tell you something. Man, that would be one thing that I would not want to deal with. Is some damn ghosts and a damn abandoned building that they have stuck my ass up in there to do some damn security. Hell to the no. I need an amen. Hell no. You couldn't get me up in there. Regardless, I had a gun or not, man. You still couldn't get me up in there. No, I couldn't do it. Won't do it. Wouldn't do it. Why should I do it? You couldn't pay me enough to do it. But anyway, that's the show for today. Mr. Ballen did a great, how would I say, story time. You know what I mean? Like he always does. Shout out to you. You know, he's a cool dude. I spoke to him before. So this like, share, comment, subscribe. And this is Paranormal Reaction number 13. You know what I'm saying? We working it. Yeah, we getting it up there. I was going for a little bit, I was out, doing a couple of projects, movies, etc. And man, I mean, we're doing the thing, man. We back. We gotta get this stuff popping. We're gonna get it going. And that's how we do it. Love you all. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Let's get this channel booming, man. Let's get it up this way everybody can see it. Let's build our community. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. Hit that little bell. You know what I'm saying? So we can get notified whenever I put on some crazy reaction videos. You know what I mean? But until then, y'all, get the hell up out my living room and go home.